But I think this particular workshop is very close to my heart. This idea that you have here, what we're doing, it's very important. It's very important for this country, and I think it's very important for you also. I've had a good discussion with the lady executive manager of the association while we're coming in. The first thing that I must say to the Rarawai and Penang Cane Producers Association, I'm glad to see that you're still functioning. I'm glad to see that you managed to get out of all of those difficulties that we had, and that we can pursue this program so that it can continue to provide you the benefits that you need, continue to assist you in the work that you do, doing some of the most important work in this country, which is to produce cane so that we can produce sugar, because the lives of a lot of people in this country depend on that. So for that, I thank you and I congratulate you on the fact that we could make this association continue to function well. This particular workshop, the workshop on child labor, is something that's important to me because it goes directly to the vision of the Bainimarama government. The Bainimarama government, it has a very simple vision. Over the past few years that we've been in existence, we have just one vision. That vision is to make sure that we can build a better Fiji. That's all we want to do, build a better Fiji. We don't want a Fiji where people are fighting all the time. We don't want a Fiji where there are lots of poor people. We don't want a Fiji where we discriminate against each other. We want a better Fiji for all of us. One in which we live happier lives, in which we live fulfilled lives. That's what we want, a better Fiji for everybody. And over the past few years, the government has done a lot of things to try to make that better Fiji come to a reality. We've tried to do a lot of things to make it. Over the past few years, you have seen what has happened. Even though we were in difficult times, we have managed to have economic growth in this country. You know, in 2009, a lot of countries, they decided not to help us. They decided to put bans against us. A lot of agencies that used to give us money, they decided not to give us money. European Union, the sugar industry was supposed to have received a lot of money. But despite all of that, the government has been able to make sure that we have good economic growth in 2010, 2011, 2012, 2013. And last week, I was reading in the papers, and he said, hey, we thought that the economic growth in 2013 was only 3.6%, but now we're recalculating it's actually 4.6%. This year, they're estimating that we are going to have economic growth of 3.8%. At the end of this year, we will have had 5 years of economic growth. The only way a government can try to build a better country is if it can have economic growth, so it can collect money from taxes and then put that money back to help people. That is what we've been able to achieve over these past 5 years. 5 years of economic growth. 5 years of economic growth is very rare in Fiji's history. Very, very rare. 5 consecutive years. Very, very rare. The last time that has happened was from 1992 to 1996. And it's happening again now, from 2010 to 2014. So all of that effort has been put in. We have seen the massive investment in roads, massive investment in schools, in hospitals. All of these things are very important to get that. Government has put in place the systems and the process to make that growth happen. So that the economic growth can happen, we can collect taxes, and we can provide services to people. Just a few weeks ago, I was reading in the papers that a lot of organizations are now able to increase the pay for their staff. And they're beginning to pay bonuses for their staff. That is also a reflection of the economic growth. And I think, to top it all off, the most important thing that we're seeing in this in the government trying to create a better Fiji is the constitution that we now have in place. We now have a constitution in place that guarantees everybody equal citizens. All of us are treated equally. That is absolutely fantastic. We have a constitution that tries to unify our country. And on top of that, we now have a constitution that gives new rights to everybody in this country. The right to education, the right to sanitation and housing, the right to electricity and water and a good life. All of these things are manifest in that constitution. And all of these things are all designed to achieve that vision of government, which is to build a better Fiji. But when we talk about building a better Fiji, it should not only just be a better Fiji for the people who are old, it is also needs to be a better Fiji for those who follow us and are young. That's why this workshop is important. Because child labor is about, if we can eradicate child labor, it is about making sure we can build a better Fiji for our children. It's not just enough to have a lot of money, and those of us in this current generation. It's important that we can build a better Fiji for our children. That's why I always treat this particular workshop. Whenever I'm invited, I try to take the time to come here. That is important. Building a better Fiji for our children. This particular workshop will be doing that. It is something, what do I have here? Child labor is something that can rob a child of his or her future. And it is something that does not allow us to fully reach our vision for this country. In the world today, we have around 215 million children who are engaged in child labor. And the ILO, they report that the child labor problem is beginning to go down, but it's still a big challenge in a lot of countries. So it's a big problem for us. In our own labor laws in Fiji, we say that anybody who is 18 years and older, that person is an adult. Anybody that is 18 years and younger is a child. So if you are a child, you are allowed to work in certain circumstances, but these are limited circumstances. One of the key principles in the legislation that we have about child labor is that any labor that a child gets involved in, is this still thing working? Or coming? Any labor that a child is involved in must not interfere with the child's development. In other words, if anybody is working in doing any kind of work, the work that they're involved in should not have a detrimental or negative or bad effect on the person's development of his brain, of his education, or have a bad effect on his physical development. So there are limitations to things for the children. Also, there are limitations to things in terms of, don't worry, I can shout. You can all hear me at the back, eh? Yeah, my voice is loud. I've been campaigning politically for 3 weeks now. I'm used to shouting. What have I got to? So we have various limitations then. I'm sure during the course of this program, I'm not going to talk about the laws on child labor because the experts are going to talk to you about it. They will teach you all about all of these things. But what we have tried to do in government in order to try to help people get to assist children is there's been a lot of benefits that have been provided for children. Now we have in the Constitution now gives the right to education, right to the right to primary, secondary, tertiary, and early childhood education. All of those rights are provided. Government is providing assistance for that to try to assist you to give your children the right to attend these things. So in the course of this particular workshop, the experts here are going to tell you about the laws on child labor. And I know that the laws on child labor are important for you because it has an impact on the amount of money that you get from the Fair Trade certification. So in terms of your interest, there is a direct economic benefit. But in terms of the interest of government also, that direct economic benefit, it assists you greatly. And I've seen the $2.8? $2.4 million that has been created, that is channeled back to you. And I understand that one of the criteria that you need to meet is this concept of eradicating child labor. So I'm not going to talk in detail about that. The experts will talk about it. But I will say this to you. When we can eliminate child labor, we are working to do something that creates a better future for our children. Because we allow them to develop. We allow them to participate in education so that they can have a better future for themselves. And when we do that, it also has economic benefits for you. It has economic benefits for everybody. And ultimately, it allows us to fulfill that vision of government to have a better Fiji for those of us that live in this generation and those that follow. When we eradicate child labor, that is what we're able to do. We're able to sustain and maintain this momentum of building a better Fiji, not only for our current generation, but for everybody that follows us. I understand that in some cases in our area here, we have had some yellow cards. In a few years' time, we will have a major audit We want to reach the time that we reach that major audit, no more yellow cards, all green cards, all green flags, all green cards. That's what we need to do. And I'm sure that you have the benefit through the Fair Trade Program. If you're able to achieve that, that you will get economic benefits, benefits that are now accruing to all of you. So I'm here as Minister of Labour. I thank you for inviting me. I know that the workshop will be very successful because you have Mr. Atish here, who has been the Mr. Child Labour. This is Mr. Child Labour in Fiji. He's the one who goes all over. He is the prophet of child labour. He preaches the gospel of child labour. He's been heavily involved. I think you're very fortunate to have him and the rest of the team to be here. So with those few words, I wish you well in this workshop. I hope that you, like us in the Ministry of Labour, will become prophets of the idea of eliminating child labour in this country, so we can allow children to have a better future for themselves, so they can participate fully in the new Fiji, that the Bainimarama government, your government, is trying to create. With those words, I announce this workshop officially open.